Things are going well for you. As always, there's a plethora of information in the Microsoft Message Center for this last month, and a lot of updates happening. Things are, especially when I see the updates, a lot of things are being pushed back just because they want to make sure that things are right before they release it. So make sure, especially with the updates that you see, they're actually classified, they say updated. And make sure you see if it's something that you're interested in, make sure you see the timeline, make sure you see what's going on with that. Every once in a while, they'll throw something about, hey, we're making it a little bit more easier to understand what this feature is all about. Make sure you differentiate that between, oh, I got another month before this may be coming out, so keep that in mind. So specifically with what we going on, let's start off with a little bit of Exchange side of things. So there is an update that's going to be happening here literally in September for targeted release, those people who are on that, and then standard late September to mid-October. If you're utilizing Outlook Web, things are going to move around a little bit, specifically, especially the formatting toolbar. That's the biggest thing that you're going to be seeing. That formatting bar is going to move around. So your users may see this and may get a little bit of, hey, what's going on? So make sure you notify this. But basically, that formatting bar is going to be relocated at the top as opposed to the bottom. If you're used to that in the web, when you open up a new email or if you respond to something, you'll see that formatting bar on the bottom of that compose area, as opposed to what's going to happen now. It's going to be more at the top, in the middle, and on the left-hand side, as you kind of see. So keep that in mind. Make sure you let everybody know that this change is happening. Again, on the Exchange Online side of things, there's some things that are going to be happening from an administrative perspective to keep in mind. Again, this is an admin side of things, but the experience is going to be better for your end users. So in Exchange, there is this advanced room finder piece. And in there, they have been utilizing in the back end, there's an attribute that's being pumped into Azure AD in the back. They're utilizing an attribute called floor. Well, that's going to be moved over to what's called floor label. The problem with the floor attribute is it was only a number. You can only use a numeric value in there, as opposed to some organizations, when they were doing things, they would say, hey, I have like an atrium, or I have a plaza, or a mezzanine, or maybe they have a basement, right, in basement levels. So in previous, they'd have to do like a -1 or -2. Now they can actually say B1, B2, or they can say mezz for mezzanine or plaza, right? Those types of things. So this actually gives you more flexibility as far as how you want to do that. Now, the one thing that it did say is with this change happening here mid-September to mid-October is that if you're already utilizing that floor attribute, they're going to be actually automatically converting that over into this other floor label. And if you want to customize that or modify that, you are able to do that with the set place commandlet that you can then use to be able to adjust those settings. So keep that in mind, but do suggest that you make sure that you update your users. Hey, this is what's going to happen. This is our change that we're going to be making. It's going to be more easy to be able to find this information and align to as far as how you name pieces. All right. SharePoint Online, let's talk about this. There's a new update wrapped around the site creation piece. It's happening here in late September to early October. And it's an additional level of control. So when you go in there, normally from your end, from an administrator side of things, you only have one checkbox. That's the really one on site creation, show the options. You highlight this here, this section here, right? This is what we normally see. What's being added is this section here. Users can create SharePoint sites. And what you can do is you have this ability to then control how the end users, can then create a site. The options would be, you want to set it up or adjust it so it's only SharePoint and OneDrive they can do a site from there. It's only PowerShell commandlets or REST API. So you have a little bit more control on how that's going to work. Now, it doesn't affect users who are creating teams or M365 that have connected sites. It's only SharePoint sites specifically that this is going to affect. All right. Moving from that, let's move into Microsoft 365 wrapped around. I kind of feel this is a significant addition to what we're doing. If you use Microsoft 365 groups as an organization, and you're like, oh, I'd love to be able to have folders in there. I'd love to be able to throw rules in there. Guess what? Starting here fairly soon, you're going to be able to have that capability, just like you would do for maybe a group email, right? Or a shared mailbox, right? So that's really what this is going to be. Admins will have to enable this feature. The feature is that set organizational config. That line there will give you that. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up and loves on that one. I know. I've had that many, many times. But you can then create your folders. You can then create rules that then will literally move it into those things. Everybody that's in there, in that group, then will have access to that information and be able to adjust as it. But obviously, you want to make sure that you're not all making these rules and you have some kind of semblance of organization on that. But important, notify your users as this is coming out, because this is going to be a big piece for them so that they can utilize these M365 groups better. All right. Oh, and by the way, on that one, if I remember, not available, keep this one in mind, not available in Outlook desktop client. It's only in web. So first off, they're bringing it into web. I can see that eventually it will go into the desktop client, but for now, that's what I thought too. Keep that one in mind. All right, let's jump to Teams. Some good, interesting changes that are coming here in the near future. So this one is a shared send for Teams chat. Actually, it should be shared send. Actually, take that back. That is schedule a chat message. I'm not sure what happened with my title there. But schedule a chat message. So out in Outlook, you have this capability of being able to schedule a message to go out maybe on Monday. You have that capability. Teams now is going to be giving you that capability inside the Teams chat message and channels. Right? So you can go in there, and if you right mouse click on the send button, then you'll get these features, right? The features you notice, if you take a look at showing here first, is when, in setting it up, when do you want it to actually happen? And then when you get it set, then it's going to say, okay, it's set to deliver on this time, and then finally sending on that date. So it's important to make sure that you understand how this is going to work, and that end user experience is going to be a little bit different. Do me a favor, I think we have somebody that's not muted right now, so make sure you guys are on mute. I appreciate it. So available also not only on the desktop, but also in the mobile apps that are also be coming out as well. So again, another notification for your users. Hey, this is changing. This is a good option, especially if you're really trying as an organization to make sure that you're not, maybe you have to work, but you don't have your own whole team working. This is a good opportunity to be able to do better on that. All right. Another one, I'm like, oh, thank God for this. Custom download location for files in Teams. The ability to be able to go in there and say, okay, so normally when I download, it goes right to the downloads folder. But starting here in September, may have already gotten to your tenant, and coming in late October, you are going to be able to go into settings and files and be able to say exactly where you want those files to go. So if you're continually working in one folder with a lot of the content you're doing, this is going to go across your teams. However, there is a little option to be able to do this. Always check where saved download files. So by default, it'll go to this new location. However, it'll ask you, hey, are you sure? And so maybe 90% of the time you're sure. Otherwise, you'll have this ability to adjust. So keep that in mind. It's a great little additional feature. It's coming out. It's a little bit easier to use. Notify your users of this change. Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on if you choose to do that, Michelle. Absolutely. Yeah, no more going down the downloads and moving files manually. I love that. All right, the other piece that I love that this is finally happening is I love doing thumbs up. I love doing hearts. I love doing smiley faces. But sometimes you got to have a little bit more when you're kind of having your reactions to content inside Teams chat and channels. So starting here, previews are already happening. right now. You can jump on that if you have that set up in your organization. Otherwise, mid-October to late November, expanded reactions in Teams. So basically, the whole emojis, that's all the emojis that you have that you normally have, you'll be able to now be able to use that as reactions to what somebody said in a chat or a channel. Right, so you have access to the 800 existing emojis that are in there. There are no options to enable or disable. It's updated automatically. Just make sure your users know that this is coming down the pipeline and it's available for them. The experience is a little bit more. You'll see some of the screenshots here that actually shows you things like you can actually hover over these to see who did it because it aggregates that information. You'll see this changed a little bit because now you have access to all of these emojis that you did before, and it brings the most recent ones up. Otherwise, you can choose. But again, make sure you update your end users on what's going on with that. Okay. Another interesting feature, and this one has a lot of dependencies on hardware. But ability to actually automatically see 49 videos in a Teams meeting. This is coming up, public preview, already happening right now, worldwide, GCC happening late September, October, early October. And currently we can do without any problems, again, it's all about the processing power on your computers, but we can up to 9 videos, 3x3 grid. Get to 49, 7x7, that's gonna take up a lot of processing power behind the scenes. So there are some hardware dependencies on this. You may not be able to do it with it. You may see latency, especially when it comes to internet bandwidth. Hopefully that will change as the app progresses and as more changes happen to the app. There are some inklings that we're going to be seeing a leaner streamer version of Teams that this may even be better than. But for right now, there's some hardware dependency because of all that video coming in there. So it's not necessarily going to have a problem. So keep that in mind. But when this comes out, if you guys choose to let people know about this, let them understand that it's going to be hardware dependent. So they have a good computer to be able to handle that. Otherwise, you'll still have that 3x3 grid scenario that most organizations are using. All right, so those are the big ones. The other things I want to mention are some of the quick mentions that really help, just other things that maybe not have as big of an impact, maybe smaller, but still things to keep in mind. So one I thought was interesting, especially if you're utilizing the Dataverse, and that's specific to anything from a Power Apps side of things, or even Dynamics side. There is going to be a change happening here September 9th through this October 7th that you are going to be able to use if you're using Azure Dynamic AD groups. Right, so AD groups that in Azure, specifically based off of some parameters or attributes, you're saying, hey, lump these people in there. Now you're going to be able to utilize those Azure groups, dynamic groups, into the Dataverse and having access to certain data to be able to use within your Power Platform. So nice little feature coming up with that. Excuse me. A couple other ones, some more granular policies for requested files. I do highly suggest if you're utilizing or if you've disabled something called standard anyone links, right? So anybody access that, if you disable that feature, this actually is something I think you should look at specifically because it may allow you to get a little bit more flexibility, but yet still keep that standard or the anyone links disabled and yet give you some flexibility so that you can give some people use the ability to be able to send request files or get information out. Some new features coming in Whiteboard, so make sure you take a look at that. They are available now. Make sure you let people know about those changes in Whiteboard. Video clips in Teams chat. You get ability to be able to do a little recording. Right, so you can literally send a person a recording as opposed to just chatting something out. So very similar to some of the apps that we see now, personal apps that you can do that. So keep that in mind. And then the last one I want to mention in preview right now, if you do a lot of Teams deployment and you need to quickly get a bunch of teams set up, there is a new Teams, deploy Teams to scale preview happening late August to mid-September. And you can do up to 500 teams using pre-built templates and custom to be able to add users, add remove users, owners, members, those types of things. So that actually help with a lot of changes that you may be doing within your organization. Again, as I mentioned, some important things happening. A lot of these, the ones that I bring out as far as updated messages that come up, they're timeline changes, right? So keep this one in mind. It's important that you understand, hey, I was expecting this coming out last month. Hey, this one got pushed back a couple times. For instance, I will tell you this one. This custom branding for quarantine messages actually got pushed back now twice. And typically that tells me is that it's not ready for prime time. Make sure that you're updating your knowledge, make sure you're ready for it, but it's coming, right? But it did get pushed, so keep that in mind. And then finally, some admin actionable required ones. This one, this actually stayed pretty the same as of last month. But again, these are things from an administrative perspective you really need to keep in mind and be ready for it, okay, ahead of time. Things like especially the retirement of the Exchange Online PowerShell with MFA, that's just make sure you're using V2 as opposed to the V1. A basic authentication deprecation in Exchange Online, that's another one. Make sure that you're not doing that because that's going to be a big deal. Obviously, the other one too is the SharePoint app bar. This one actually got pushed where they were going to disable this capability of this feature. This got pushed back. So now it's being extended to March 31st, 2023. And you'll be able to disable that app bar, but later on, you're not going to be able to. So that's a big difference you have to keep in mind. All right, Michelle, I think that's everything for today.
All right. Well, that was a lot. I know even
as always,
if you go back to even the last slide, just breaking down each one of those, some people might be saying, what does the Outlook categories and insights mean? So if you're doing things like categorizing your calendar, maybe you have external meetings, internal meetings, training time, however you categorize them, actually, it will take what you've done in the last few months and provide you insights to see how often are you spending in that type of category. So some really cool stuff. So
absolutely
dig into it, do some research on it. It's going to be, I mean, all of these require a little bit more than just us announcing, but really great information. So thank you so much, Donald.
Absolutely, no problem.